This is it. Finally, I get an opportunity to review Google products, and what perfect products to review. The Pixel 6 lineup feels like a new beginning. New design, new cameras, new chips, and a new experience. And it's only fitting that now I get to tell you all about how I feel about the phones that changed my life. Let's talk about it. This is NOISO, and this is the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro review. And before we jump into the review, I want to give a quick shout out to the Android and the Pixel teams that are filled with very, very smart, hardworking, innovative people that are just changing our lives every single day with the products that they're creating. Now, a little bit of background on myself. I was very passionate about Google and its products way before I got the opportunity to work there. But once I got there, I realized that not everyone at Google is quite as passionate about Android or Pixel as I was. And it wasn't until the end of my experience that I actually got to work on the Android team. Now, I want to point out that the Android team and the Pixel team are very, very different teams, and they roll under completely different organizations, one being under platforms and one being under devices and services. The reason why I want to point this out is because too often when we talk about the Pixel, we say the Pixel was made by Google. And while that is true, in reality, the team that makes the Pixel is a lot smaller than the team that makes the iPhone. And so when you're comparing the Pixel and the iPhone, it's really a David versus Goliath scenario. But with that, let's just jump right into the review. Let's start with the design of the smaller Pixel 6. This is a Pixel 4 XL with a swollen battery and a glossy glass back panel. That's about it. It feels very similar to the Pixel 4 XL, especially considering it's got this matte black aluminum finish on the sides. The same doesn't go for the larger model, which instead has a glossy finished steel frame that curves to a very, very sharp point on either sides. This is more similar to the Galaxy S21 Ultra, or in my experience, the OnePlus 7 Pro, and we'll get further into that comparison later. Now, there are three key things that differentiate these Pixels from former Pixels: the size, the glossy glass back, and the camera shelf. Starting with the size, until this point, Google has always had a solution for people with small hands, and that's no longer the case. Both of these are very, very large phones that are difficult for even me to use in one hand comfortably, and I'm a little bit disappointed about that. Then, as far as the glossy glass back goes, Google had moved to a matte glass finish back with the Pixel 3 before most other manufacturers had did it. And then all of a sudden, when most other manufacturers are moving towards matte glass finish, Google's for some reason going back to glossy. I don't understand it exactly, and I feel like it's a worse finish than the Pixel 3 or Pixel 4, but that's a personal preference. And then there's the camera bump. I think the camera shelf in this case is very, very differentiating from any other phone on the market. There's nothing that looks quite like it as far as I have seen. And it kind of almost harkens back to the Pixel or to the Nexus 6P from so many years ago with the camera shelf on the top. While it took me some time to get used to, and I still think it looks kind of nerdy, I really have appreciated it. Not only because it looks different than any other phone on the market, but also because I actually like the fact that my phone doesn't rattle on the table when I tap on it now, relative to any phone with a large camera bump. As far as the color options goes, starting with the Pixel 6 Pro, I started with the off-white color, which I expected to kind of draw similarities to my Pixel 4 from years ago, but unfortunately it was really closer to the iPhone X's kind of dirty white that I didn't really like too much. Now I've got the sunrise color, which is different, I guess, but it's still a kind of pale color that doesn't have a lot of true punchiness. For the Pixel 6, I went with the sort of seafoam, but I would call it a kinda key lime. It's fine, but where's the oh-so orange of the Pixel 4 or the really blue of the original Pixel? But where the Pixel stands out is in the software experience, right? Well, Android 12 on the Pixel definitely stands out, but not for all the right reasons. You've probably already heard about some of the criticisms of Android 12 on the Pixel 6, like Wi-Fi and cellular are now combined under one internet quick setting, and that it now takes 2 swipes in order to get to brightness controls. But my issues with it actually lie with more than that. Text sizes are now wildly inconsistent and big for no apparent reason. Circles turn to squircles in numerous apps. The custom icons look like they're from an icon set from 2015, and they don't even change every app. And then when you're swiping down on the notification bar and going into the quick settings, some of the elements scale at different sizes, which is kind of really weird to see. And then it feels like in some places they sacrifice the actual user experience for the sake of this unique design and color scheme. For example, when I want to go into the wallpaper and style settings, you get directed to this page which looks like it has no settings outside of what you see on the screen. All of the elements on the screen fit perfectly to what you see, and there's no sort of scroll bar or any indication that you can actually swipe upwards to see more options. And that's just, well, let's just keep on going. Now from this screen, let's go ahead and change our wallpaper and color scheme. So it's really cool that you can easily choose wallpaper colors in order to kind of have a consistent design across your entire interface. But considering I have my wallpaper change every day, it's a gamble to see whether I wake up in the morning and my entire interface is a puke green or a toilet yellow color. And it's too often a kind of muted version of that. But let's instead go to the basic colors and select like this nice kind of forest green color. What's that? That's not the color I chose. That is a fluorescent green color that looks nothing like the forest green that I chose. There's no elements here that look like that forest green. So why not just show me fluorescent green color in the first place? Look, I know I'm doing a lot of complaining here, but I'm not sure of anyone who looked at Android 11 on the Pixel 5 and said, sure, this is great, but can we get more pastel colors? Google clearly tried to do something completely new, and there was always the opportunity to theme and customize your design beforehand. But now with this new theme and design, there's no opportunities for us squares to go back to basic primary colors. But I've already spent too much time talking about something that doesn't actually negatively impact my experience with the phone that much. But what might is the bugs. I don't think the bugs should be a core part of any phone review if the expectation is for them to go away. Recently though, now 2 months after the Pixel 6 released, I'm still having problems with my Pixel 6 Pro. Notably, now I cannot log in from the lock screen without turning it on first. So I can't use my fingerprint on the always on display. If you are experiencing bugs on your Android device, submit feedback, submit bug reports. While it might seem kind of like you're just throwing a message into the void, in reality, I've seen the cogs in the machine, and I know that there are people on the other side who are legitimately concerned in making the experience great for you. And they will see those bugs, and the more bug reports that they get, the more likely that they are focused on that problem and will solve it as soon as they can. Where the Pixel software stands out is in the Pixel exclusive features. I have had a relatively generic phone number for the last 10 years that happens to also coincide with several small businesses' phone numbers just changed by a single digit. And that has meant I have gotten endless spam calls and wrong number calls to every phone that I've used outside of Pixel devices. Pixel devices have so many solutions for incoming spam calls that don't require you to just hang up when you don't recognize a number. The same utility goes for Google's unique dialer app that allows me to see how many people are calling into a customer service line, and Google's Hold For Me functionality that can actually hold on to that service line and notify me when my agent is ready. And now I've had friends send me pictures of their wedding photos where they have the officiant in the background and they want to eliminate the officiant from the background. And so I use Magic Eraser to do so. Magic Eraser is an incredible feature that probably should have been on phones for a long time. And now I want to go back to older photos that were bad just because of miscellaneous things that showed up in the shot and erase all of them. Granted, this was already possible through other software, but the ease of putting it in just anyone's hands is pretty amazing. I've seen a lot of people ask on how Google decides whether to seed Pixel exclusive features out to the broader Android ecosystem. And while I don't have direct information, the Pixel team is designing those features themselves. And then there's a negotiation on whether it spreads to broader Android based on whether it can or should. Of course, Google should have a reason for you to want to buy Pixel phones, and software features is a good reason for that. But they also want to make Android phones in general more attractive over iPhones, so it's always going to be this competition. Let's get back to the fingerprint sensor. Like the OnePlus 7 Pro, the Pixel 6 Pro and Pixel 6 use a in-display fingerprint sensor that shines a light on your finger. And it is very much first generation, meaning that it's not quite as fast as several newer fingerprint sensors. But in reality, it means a split second where I have to wait for my phone to log in, like split second. And while that is frustrating, it is still significantly faster for me than the Pixel 4's facial recognition, and it is more convenient for keeping the phone on the desk than the Pixel 5 since there's not a rear-mounted fingerprint sensor. Let's touch briefly on the displays. The Pixel 6 is flat and the Pixel 6 Pro is curved. Most modern Android phones look great enough to the point where I can't distinguish between them. And until we have really competent under-display cameras, the experience of using just about any Android phone is going to be about the same. The iPhone 13 is the only odd notch out here. This is the last parallel that I'll draw to the OnePlus 7 Pro. The Pixel 6 Pro is incredibly fast, like staggeringly fast. All of the animations are super sharp, and then the 120 hertz refresh rate just flies. And there's a positive to this and a negative. Sometimes the phone doesn't seem to be able to catch up to how fast you're swiping through things. This specifically happens for me in apps like Twitter, where there's a little bit of judderiness. It feels very, very quick and a lot quicker than the iPhone 13 Pro, which instead seems to opt for a bit slower animations just for that kind of smooth, consistent feel between applications and animations. But if you want something a little bit more reined in, then for me, the Pixel 6 has been a little bit more consistently smooth, if not like mind-bendingly fast. Yes, it's got the same internal hardware, but with a 90 hertz refresh rate, somehow I've had a better experience on this, which just could be a bug for all I know. Both of these phones have had absolutely great battery life for me, no complaints there. I can sometimes make it a day and a half to like tomorrow's lunch and still not have to charge, but I wouldn't say that either of these are 2-day phones for me. Like most other modern phones, these are more than fast enough for the average individual. The question is whether they will be able to sustain the performance long into the future. I think, based off of having similar architecture to Exynos processors, that the Tensor chip will fare just fine. But I will say that now that Google can't blame Qualcomm for software updates, there is a general expectation by a lot of people that they should be able to sustain software updates for a lot longer. Like most Pixels before them, these are the benchmarks for what all Android manufacturers should be striving for in terms of software updates. Obviously, a lot of people are going to draw parallels to the iPhone and say, wait a second, Apple supports their phones for a lot longer. But I don't think it's really an apples to apples comparison. If Apple hypothetically wanted to support their phones for the next decade, they could basically make every single software update into just a simple security update and not actually add a ton of features. Then the iPhone 6 might still be able to have 15 years of software updates. Now, I know this is kind of an exaggeration, but if you look at the actual software updates over the last 5 years between Android and iPhone, I would say that you'd find a lot more features and actual true changes to the experience on the Android side than you have gotten on the iOS side. iOS has stayed relatively static in your experience, and therefore it's a lot easier to support phones that are 5 or 8 years old. I think comparing 7 years and 3 years is kind of arbitrary for me because as an enthusiast, I care a lot more about feature upgrades, and I don't think it's likely for me to be using this Pixel 6 in 2027. Instead, I think it's more likely that I will be using a brand new phone that I hope will get another couple years of software upgrades. For those that aren't enthusiasts, I've found a lot of people actually don't love software upgrades because they might have negative impacts to performance or battery life, or they might be buggy or confusing. If you personally plan on using your Pixel for 6 years into the future, then I think you're going to be just fine. If instead you're like me and you're likely to refresh a phone, then you'll be covered for the 3 years that you own the phone. Finally, we get to the cameras. And I want to preface this section by saying that I'm not a camera expert. I'm just more of a smartphone enthusiast. And so I don't know everything about aperture and ISO and shutter speed. And I am just looking to get a incredible photo just right out of the camera that I don't have to do any edits for. And generally, Pixels over the years have been consistently great at doing just that. Not always the best, but certainly in the top 3. This is absolutely the case with the Pixel 6 Pro. I've used it side by side with the iPhone 13 Pro over the last couple months, and absolutely, I prefer the Pixel 6 Pro's saturated, punchy, not realistic photos over what I get with the iPhone 13 Pro. Now, one problem that I've had with the Pixel 6 series is in the video experience. I've gotten more and more likely to be taking videos on my phone through the usage of the iPhone 13 Pro, which has an incredible video camera. The Pixel 6 Pro has all of the makings to have an incredible video camera, but for whatever reason, it just frequently hunts for focus and is unable to take a smooth, non-staggering video. I don't think it's the stabilization. I think it's purely kind of a software issue. Maybe it's a bug that's going to be solved in the future, but I wouldn't trust this to be the perfect video camera. And I probably would have an iPhone alongside it in order to make sure that I'm prepared to take a video. Which gets me to the bottom line. The Pixel 6 is an incredible deal at $599. What? No. We're done with this, right? We're supposed to be past this point where we're saying that the Pixel is a good phone for the price, but it can't compete with the true flagships. That can't happen anymore, right? This is the year that that's supposed to change. So why is everyone still saying it about the Pixel 6? Well, I think it's because the Pixel 6 Pro exists. We think so much about what compromises we're making when we're buying a $599 phone versus a $999 phone. And frankly, we can't really call them compromises so much anymore. Sure, this doesn't have a 4K display, but neither do most smartphones nowadays, but that's not a compromise. That's just a feature, right? And so generally, we're losing the telephoto camera, but for a lot of people, that probably shouldn't matter. Losing curved edges, but that might be a better feature for some people. And so I don't know why we can't look at the Pixel 6 on its own as an incredible flagship. I drew a comparison to a couple years ago, the Pixel 4 XL. The Pixel 4 XL was $899. Considering this is $599, this is a great deal. But obviously, it's not viewed in a vacuum. The Pixel 6 Pro exists. And when I look at the Pixel 6 Pro, it's, $300 more expensive, and it is, despite its software bugs and poor ergonomics, the Pixel 6 Pro is everything that I could have asked for in a Pixel flagship. At $899, that's perfectly reasonable, and while I don't typically pay full price for Android phones, this is really worth it. I am proud to have had at least a microscopic impact on its existence, and I think this is a great Android device. Thank you for watching NOISO. I hope you liked my review of the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro. If you did, be sure to like, get subscribed, and let me know down in the comments what you think of both of these phones. Thank you for watching. I'm so excited to see more of you down in the comments. I'll catch you in the next one.